Okay, last week I gave all of you some of the worst horror movies of 2022.
Get the phone. Call 911. Why didn't anybody tell me? No, please. No more. No more. I don't want it. I don't want it.
Who wants chowder?
I think it's all gone. I think it's...
Today I'm going to give you all a list of some decent horror movies that came out in 2022. I won't be spoiling any of them. I'll tell you where you can watch them and what's good and bad about them, and whether or not I'd recommend giving them a watch or if they're just skippable. Doesn't mean it's a terrible movie, just not good enough to give it a second watch or tell people to watch it. So, let's get spooky. VHS 99. VHS 99 is the latest addition to the VHS franchise. If you're not familiar with it, it's an anthology movie series that has 4 to 5 short stories per film. All of the stories are found footage style. I know some of you might not be able to handle the shakiness of the found footage genre.
Stop being such a pussy!
I think found footage has a lot of merit, and some of my favorite horror movies are found footage, and if any of you assume I would name Paranormal Activity, you must be new here, because I shit on that franchise regularly.
I care so little I almost passed out.
Normally in the VHS movies, there's a story that connects all of the other ones. It basically gives the audience a reason to why or how we are seeing these disconnected short stories. But that's not really the case for VHS 99. Considering the connecting story is mostly just filler and never a story of note on its own, it's not a big deal that they did away with it this time. In this one, you get creature features, vengeful spirits, zombies, and cults. Some of the stories are pretty good. I wouldn't say all of them are home runs, and my favorite story might be the college initiation one, but it's a serviceable addition to the VHS franchise, which is great because everyone seems to be shitting on VHS 94. I haven't seen it, but it appears that I'm not missing out on anything. I'd recommend VHS 99 to anyone who wants to pass the time with some short stories. You can watch this on Shudder and Sling. The Munsters.
Greetings from Transylvania!
Rob Zombie's The Munsters is an attempt at a revival of the original 60s Munsters TV show. I know a lot of people think this movie is hot garbage, and on some levels, I don't blame them. However, in order to prep myself for this movie, I watched a few episodes of the original series. I never watched the Munsters seriously growing up, so I was watching them with pretty fresh eyes. No nostalgia filter here. Speaking of, I do nostalgia test videos where I watch something old for the first time and see how well it's aged. You can find them on my channel, but let's be honest here. The Munsters TV show came out in the 60s. I'm going to show you a scene from both the show and the movie for comparison.
No one in our family has ever been thrown out of school since the time they caught Grandpa hanging from the rafters at Vassar.
I only flew in there to get out of the rain.
For 2 weeks?
Now here's the movie.
When they made me, they broke the mold.
With you in it, I presume.
No! I think I was out by that point.
I hear a lot of people being pissed off that the movie wasn't funny. Yeah, the TV show's comedy is mostly slapstick humor and bad dad jokes. The main difference between the movie and the show is the movie doesn't have a laugh track. And going off of the standard that the TV show set, I'm kind of surprised that this was people's reaction to it.
Like a used diaper filled with Indian food. Oh!
I will admit, a lot of the jokes in the movie aren't very good. I chuckled maybe once or twice, and the plot was kind of ridiculous how it's played out, which is tough on a director or writer standpoint because you are reviving essentially a kid's show, but everyone who grew up with it is an adult with more refined tastes. But it makes sense that Herman's brain is from a bad stand-up comedian, given the bad dad jokes. But the reason why the Munsters go from Transylvania to LA seems so rushed and not very well thought out. The ending is pretty as well. It's not a terrible movie, but I don't recommend it, and judging by the reception, I'd be surprised if there was a sequel, so you aren't missing out on much. You can watch it on Netflix. X. X is a slasher movie about a film crew going to shoot an adult film on some farm property owned by some old couple. They don't tell the couple what they are really up to, I guess just to save money. The script they are working on is called The Farmer's Daughter, and I guess they had to shoot on some real farm property. The movie is shot really well, and there are some scenes that parallel each other that really speak volumes to the art of filmmaking. But the reason this is on the decent list is because it's a slasher movie that's got a Texas Chainsaw Massacre feel to it. So right out of the gate, the setting is comparable to a very well-known franchise, so it doesn't feel that special. On top of that, almost all of the kills are predictable. This movie has an okay kill count, but there is really only one of them that took me by surprise. Not only are the kills predictable, they're weak. There is really very little to no creativity to the violence in this film, which is half of the appeal for slasher movies. Not a terrible movie, but I have zero desire to give it a rewatch. And the only reason I think people should get around to it is because Pearl was very good, and that's the prequel to this movie, and it's the origin story of the old woman in X. But I'll talk about Pearl in another video. You can watch X on Hulu, Showtime, Amazon Prime, and YouTube Premium. You can see my full review for X in the link below. Nope.
It's in a cloud.
OJ! It's in the cloud!
Nope is the latest Jordan Peele movie that's basically about aliens. I mean, that's the vibe that it gives off in the trailers, and I said no spoilers, so we're just going off of the trailer info. For the most part. It focuses on these two siblings that run a horse farm that regularly rents out their horses to Hollywood production companies. They are in a rough patch. The brother is the horse whisperer.
It's okay. I calmed you down, you horse.
And the sister is more of the trying to make a name for herself by throwing herself out there any way she can type. While they are going through their own shit, a lot of mysterious happenings are going on their property that would make most people go,
Nah.
This is a pretty well-made movie. I know what a lot of people are thinking about me since I put this movie on the decent list and not the best of 2022 list.
How would you like to die today, motherfucker? No.
Just hear me out. Everything is shot really well. There's a lot of symbolism that has some pretty deep meaning. I mean, that's just typical Jordan Peele. Some people will draw conclusions that are most likely not there, but still fit. That reminds me of the cereal scene in Get Out. The psycho girl is taking bites out of dry Fruit Loops and then sips a glass of milk, and people were like, oh, see, it's another level of segregation because the milk represents white people and the cereal represents black people, and she's not letting them mix. But when Jordan Peele was asked about the scene, all he said was, I was just trying to think of how a psychopath would eat cereal and came up with that. Yeah, so there is more than likely things like that happening with Nope. Another positive is that there are a few scenes that I thought were cinema gold, and I was just mesmerized by what was happening on screen. My gripes against the movie are, firstly, the pacing. There were moments where I felt like this movie really dragged. Secondly, when it comes to horror, there are very few horror scenes. And finally, the ending. At first, I kind of liked it, but the more I thought about it, the more I disliked it. It dragged on for too long, it took place during midday, which was kind of an okay choice, and I didn't like the look of it all. Can't say more than that without spoiling it. I would say that I'm sure plenty of people liked this movie more than I did. It's a higher brow kind of horror, and I'd recommend it to that kind of a horror crowd. You can watch this on Peacock. Orphan, First Kill.
If you're not Esther, who are you?
Orphan First Kill is the prequel to The Orphan that came out in 2009. Why did they release a prequel to a movie that came out 13 years ago? Don't know, but it's not on the shit list, so I'm not really complaining. The movie focuses on the origins of Esther, the adult with a growth hormone disorder that impersonates a young child to get into homes and tries to bang the fathers of these families that adopt her, so just normal stuff. By the way, that's not really a spoiler, that's actually the plot of the original 2009 movie. This is Esther's origin story, but it's kind of not really her origin story. The movie takes place with Esther being in an insane asylum, her escape, and the first family she tries to dupe in the US. Pretty serious stuff considering she was in an asylum in Estonia. So it's not really her first kill because she was committed to the asylum because of something that happened before. I guess this movie is her first American kill, but that title sounds terrible, so first kill it is. She tricks the police into believing that she's a missing American girl in order to get out of the country. The positives in this movie would be some of the violence, the dialogue, and the overall story is a fun ride. They got the original actress to reprise her role, but the thing is that she was an actual kid in the 2009 movie. 13 years later, she's an adult, so they do lots of camera tricks to make it seem like she's a small child again. And it's done pretty well for the most part, but when you notice it throughout the whole film. The negatives are some of the plot choices and decision making with what is happening. Sometimes what they do or say doesn't seem natural and it's like a bit forced. There's also some scenes with a lot of CGI fire and it looks terrible. A decent chunk of this film is pretty much the same concept as the first movie. So the title is a bit deceiving because it's not really her first kill or really her origin story. I don't know if they'll come out with another prequel movie, which would be a weird way to tell a story, just constantly backtrack because there's no way to move forward for obvious reasons. I would have preferred that more of the movie was in the asylum. That was a much more interesting part of this movie, but it's only the first 10 minutes of the film. I would recommend this as a casual watch. It's a fun movie to not take too seriously. You can watch this on Amazon Prime and Paramount Plus. Scream 2022.
This isn't funny, Amber.
Would you like to play a game, Tara?
Scream 2022 is the 5th in the franchise. Why wasn't it just called Scream 5? Don't know. Actually, it's probably because Halloween 2018 was just called Halloween, and Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2022 was just called Texas Chainsaw Massacre. So I guess Scream was left with no choice but to go with the same shitty title as all the other recent revival slashers. Has anyone ever considered it might help people who want to look up a movie online to, I don't know, give it its own name? But no. Now instead of typing Halloween movie, you have to type something like Halloween 1970 something to get the original, and then Halloween 2000 whatever to get the recent revival trilogy.
Little idiots! Idiots!
Anyways, Scream 5 follows a completely new cast and their dealings with the Ghostface killer. There's not a whole lot I can say about this movie without spoiling too much, but the characters we have grown up with from the previous entries are in the back seat on this one, and even more so than Scream 4. The acting is pretty good, and if you're a diehard Jenna Ortega fan, she's in it, but not much. Considering she's been in like 5 movies and a TV show this year, it's not super surprising her role isn't that big in this movie. The main story focuses on her older sister after Jenna's character gets attacked by the new Ghostface killer. That's not a spoiler, by the way. It's always someone new because they kill them off at the end of every film. So the older sister looks for help from Jenna's friends and the OG characters, all the while dealing with her own personal family drama. The good parts about this film are definitely the kills. They kind of remind me of this one time moving on. The bad parts about this film is that it's nothing special. They've been doing practically the same thing with all of these movies. There's really nothing super unique about this one, and it's because of that I'm only a little bit excited about Scream 6. They dropped a teaser recently, and it looks like they're finally upping the ante in this franchise. And no matter how bad or okay a movie is, I always want new, good horrors and thrillers. Even if Scream 5 was dog shit, I wouldn't be bitter and want Scream 6 to be terrible. Scream 5 is an okay movie, and I'd only really recommend it to people who are already fans of the franchise or people who are just as excited as I am about Scream 6. For everyone else, it's more of a background movie until the kills happen. You can watch this on Hulu, Fubo, and Amazon Prime. Speak No Evil.
No one's forcing you to stay, but I really hope you do, because today is gonna be a great day.
Speak No Evil is a British horror thriller about how you should never make friends on vacation. I mean, I guess you can, but keep that friendship in wherever you're visiting and not bring that back to your normal life. So we follow a small family that's a bit overly kind and passive who meets another small family who's a bit more aggressive and pushy. The latter family befriends the former while they're both on holiday. They have such a good time that the pushy family invites the others to their place for a few days after they have all come back from holiday. As things progress during their little stay, you aren't sure whose side you're on. Are the kind people being too much pushovers, or the aggressive people really pushing them to unreasonable limits? I would say most all aspects of this movie are very good, but it is a very dark movie. If you're okay with that, then you would probably enjoy this film. It's definitely a slow burn, which I don't mind for the most part, but not much happens, and then the last 10 minutes, that shit gets dialed up to 11. Would have been nice if there were more things happening throughout this entire film that either gradually built up to that conclusion or get the party started more towards the halfway mark of the runtime. Another reason why this is on the decent list is because there really is not much about it that makes me want to watch it again. Kind of like Eden Lake, the movie just riled me up more than anything, to the point where I don't know if I'd want to go on this journey again, if you get what I mean. You can watch this on Shudder and Sling TV. Studio 666.
Let's finish the track.
Can't we just wait, dude?
Studio 666 is about the Foo Fighters recording their latest track in a haunted house. This one also has a brief cameo from Jenna Ortega. I know y'all might think I'm obsessing over her because this is the same list with 3 of her movies in it, but her cameo in this is just in the beginning. It's brief and she's just there to get killed, so shut up. Anyways, the movie is a dark comedy and the main characters are literally the Foo Fighters group. They aren't professional actors and sometimes it really shows. I would say that the movie has some funny parts, but I wasn't really rolling in my throne. The violence is over the top, which is nice, but the story and the ending is kind of bare bones from what I remember, or it's just not super well thought out. I don't really know. I mean, being kind of forgettable is never really that good of a sign. So I would recommend it as long as you can look past the subpar acting skills and the okay story. You can watch it on Stars, Hulu, Sling, and Philo. And I'm gonna wrap it up here, and like I said last time, if this video does well and you'll want to see more decent movie reviews or recommendations, I'll do a part 2. Thanks for watching, and stay spooky.